Silent Night by John G. Sutton. The deep leaden grey sky darkened as soft snow fell in flakes on this cold Christmas Eve. Alone in her neat and tidy front room, toasting her toes before a flaming log fire, sat Miss Felicity. Her fingers ruffled the fur of Marmaduke, the comfortable cat. The Westminster clock chimed 8. "Soon be time for bed," she murmured, disturbed from her half-sleep by the familiar tones. Felicity gazed towards the table, and her eyes rested on the now yellowing photograph of her long-lost lover. Then her mind drifted back to that Christmas Eve many years ago, when her Edward had stood by that very table and promised that they would be married when he returned from the war. But he never returned. She thought of the simple, stark message from the War Office: "Missing in action. Presumed dead." Felicity brushed away a tear. So many years, she whispered, and shuffled into her pink pom-pom slippers. Outside, the frost froze the flakes of snow into a hard white carpet. An unearthly silence settled about the little house as she quietly prepared for bed. Undaunted by the bitter cold, the all-male choir of St. Mary the Virgin's Church gathered in the congregational hall, dressed in their warmest clothes, with gloves, knitted hats, and thick socks. The singers carolled forth into the frosty street, determined to bring the spirit of Christmas to one and all. "Keep those lanterns up, lads," shouted Harry, the keen as mustard choirmaster, his breath misting in the winter's night. Inside her snug bedroom, Miss Felicity curled cosy in a deep, soft, eider-downed bed. Drifting slowly into dreamless sleep, she heard, far, far away in the distance, the faint sounds of the approaching carol singers. "Christmas alone," she sighed, thinking of times long past when her life held promise and Edward. "Come on, lads, let's sing Silent Night. It's always a favourite." Harry cajoled his carolers, who by this time were beginning to feel the chill of this frozen Christmas Eve. Slowly they began walking along the road leading to Miss Felicity's home. The house stood slightly sheltered behind the snow-hung conifers, dimly lit by a solitary street lamp. "Mind if I join you for this one?" The voice came from a tall young man in a long brown overcoat with bright brass buttons. Harry was startled. The stranger had appeared, or so it seemed, from thin air. Must have been the snow deadening his footsteps, he thought. "Yes, why not? Spirit of Christmas and all that. Hope you've got a good voice." Harry led the group to a halt almost directly beneath the bedroom window of Miss Felicity's house. They formed themselves into their practice pattern, with the tall stranger standing at the rear. He sang along with them in a deep, dark, haunting voice. "Silent night, holy night, come, all is bright. Miss Felicity was awake at once. They were singing her favourite carol. Happy memories flooded back from that time long, long ago when she was a young woman. Felicity filled with emotion, thinking of those distant days and what might have been. Pushing back the heavy eiderdown, she shuffled to the window and drew back the deep red velvet curtains. Staring out into the bleak night, she saw in the semi-darkness below the glow of the carol singers' lanterns. Holy infant, so tender and mild. Her heart seemed to leap into her mouth. There, at the back of the group of carolers he stood. Yet it could not be him. Tall, strong, sure of himself, dressed in his army greatcoat, bright brass buttons reflecting the lantern's yellow light. Sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. With an agility that denied her years, Felicity hurried downstairs and flung the front door wide open. "Edward! Edward!" she cried. But the carol singers had gone. She could see for a brief moment the indistinct outline of the group as it turned away, disappearing into the swirling mist of winter. Careless of the cold, she walked out to where the carolers had stood, singing of a holy night long, long ago. In the dim light cast by the lone street lamp, Felicity saw something twinkling, something yellow on the crisp white carpet of snow. Her thin fingers reached down and picked up a single brass button. "You're quite a good singer," said Harry to the stranger as the choir strolled back to the congregational hall. "Have you ever thought of joining a choral society?" he asked. But answer came there none from the still, silent night.